Welcome, everyone. You're listening to How We Heal the podcast. I'm Kira Noel, medical intuitive, your host. Our sponsor is the medicinebuddhawithin.com, intuitive training for all. Check out their website and be registered to be invited to all the upcoming trainings. Now let's begin our show. Welcome. This is How We Heal the podcast with your host, me, Kira Noel. Today, my guest is Merci Walsh, who will tell you all about her intuitive guidance and consultation. She is a treasure of incredible records we all need to hear about. The things about us that we may not be able to access on our own, Merci can. She's a wonderful resource, and I wanted somebody on the podcast who talks about what it's like to be a professional psychic and intuitive, and here she is. So welcome, Merci. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Kier, so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for having this space that I can do this, because as you'll know, I'll tell my story. I haven't had this space before, so I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I just want to say the question of this podcast is, how did you get to become who you are and have your own unique view?
Okay, well, start from the beginning. I was born and raised in Ulster County. I grew up in High Falls, a small little town in between Stone Ridge and Rosendale. And unbeknownst to my parents, I couldn't see when I was born. They didn't realize that until I was starting school. So anything that I have, it's been since I was born. I have these natural talents and abilities or gifts, however you want to call them. I've always had them. And I didn't realize I was different until about 8 years old. And I was listening to my mom and grandmother talking about their dreams or their premonitions they've had. And my mom had made the joke to my grandmother about, we're all cursed. We were witches. Our ancestors were witches, got burned at the stake. And that's how they are. Me being a little kid, I was terrified at 8 years old hearing that. I didn't think anything different. I didn't think I was different. I thought everybody could do this and people know things. And I didn't know that nobody else could do these. I didn't know. But growing up was tough. Like I said, I didn't have sight until I was about 5. So I was in glasses, and they were very thick glasses so I could see. And I also had a speech impediment. So on top of looking, silly as a child with big glasses, I was in speech therapy until like junior high because I had a speech impediment. So, and that comes with a lot of bullying and even, family members and stuff. So it was very hard for me, but it was inward. I always knew there was something different about me. And I don't want to seem like, oh, I'm different than everybody else. I'm special. I don't consider myself that way at all, because the gifts and abilities that I have has taken quite a toll on me. And it's been a lot of a burden for the things that have happened, the things that I know, the things that I can foresee. It's not as like people like, oh, I wish I was like, no, you don't want to be like me, because it took me a lot to be where I am. It took me a lot to be where I am. I was diagnosed with complex PTSD and depressive disorders. And when I was younger, I used to self-harm. Like, it was terrible. And I always kept within myself. Nobody knew these things. There's people that have known me my entire life right now and don't know that I do these things or have these abilities. That's how much I've kept to myself.
Merci, tell us, in your family, when you were growing up as a little kid, how many do you have siblings? Are they like you? Are they different?
Yeah, I have 2 older sisters and a younger brother. And I do know that my sister, me and her are 18 months apart. She has dreams and premonitions and knows things, but she doesn't want to explore it any further than like I do. I don't know about the other 2. I'm not really in touch with them, unfortunately. So I'm not sure what they can do or what they know. And I never spoke about it before in my family until my sister. I was in my 20s and I was going away for the weekend with an ex-boyfriend. And the first thing, I sat up from bed. I was asleep. I sat right up and I said, my sister's in the hospital. And my ex-boyfriend at the time, he looked at me. He's like, what? I said, my sister's in the hospital. So I picked up the phone. I tried calling her. I tried calling my parents. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And the trip was like 3.5, 4 hours away. And I had him keep stopping at payphones, like gas stations, to use the payphones so I could try to get a hold of my sister because I knew she was in the hospital. I knew it was bad. She was in the hospital. So we get all the way up to our destination. And some of the guys were around the fire. They knew I was visibly upset. And he had said, oh, she thinks her sister's in the hospital and can't get in touch with her. So one of the guys that was there that I never met left and came back with this big, huge box it was an old cell phone, like when they first came out. And I didn't know what it was. He's like, here, use my cell phone. And, that was very nice. And that was the first time I had met him. And he was a doctor. I didn't know who he was, but he ended up being a doctor. And I sat in my car for 45 minutes. And at the time, cell phone. So I had to keep dialing 0 for operator, please connect me to Kingston Hospital. Please connect me to Benedictine Hospital, back and forth, 45 minutes. Finally, I called Benedictine Hospital again. I said, listen, I know I've called several times, but can you please check? I gave her my sister's name again. And she says, yeah, you've been calling me. So, but let me put you on hold. Let me try something else. So I said, okay. And I was probably on hold for like 10 minutes. And she gets back and she goes, I am so sorry. I found your sister. I apologize. I was just checking the emergency room, but she was actually admitted. Do you want me to send you to her room? And I'm like, yes, thank you so much. So I don't know what she had
Wow.
said. I don't know what she had said to my sister, but my sister picked up the phone. The first thing she said was, how did you know I was in the hospital? And I said, I had a dream. Like, I had a dream you're in the hospital. I said, I can't get a hold of mom and dad. I was trying. And she goes, oh, they're standing right here. So, and
Huh.
that's how that went. So, and after that, like, we never discussed it. We never talked about it. But I do remember my parents going away when I was a teenager, and they came back a day early because my mom had a premonition or whatever that my older sister was in a car accident. And as soon as they walked in the door, the phone rang and it was the state police saying that my sister had gotten a car accident. So, and I never really discussed this with my mom either. And my mom had depression issues as well. And I believe that it's just, you don't understand, or there's no book about being a human or having these abilities to guide you in the right direction. I think that was a lot of my mom's issues. We talk about this quite often now. So the anxiety issues, the depressive disorder issues I've had all stemmed from having these abilities and not being able to know how to deal with them or what I'm supposed to do with them. And that turned me
Right.
into, I even went to my priest a few years ago, probably like 10 years ago, maybe. My priest in Ellenville, Father John Lynch, I thank God for him. And it was a blessing because I was agonizing because being a part of a Catholic church, I didn't want to have an exorcism or be kicked out or, I wanted to
That's
be
right.
accepted in. I didn't know. I was worried because like I watched ET and I seen what they did to Elliot and ET. I was worried the government knows I can do this stuff. I didn't want them to
These
come.
are real concerns. No one el if you're listening, you have to understand there are people trying to there's some kind of before the current administration, a research arm of our world government that occasionally there was some very interesting research projects done over the last 50 years with psychics. So I
Yeah.
that's
So
definitely not
no,
disputable. It's
and
true.
I was terrified of that because I don't know what would they. So I've kept this to myself, but finally, like, I've just had this feel like I need to go and do something with it. So I went to speak to the priest because, where I don't know where else to go. And this is heavy on me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. I have it. I fought against it my whole life. And I skipped right over Jesus and I was angry with God because I've had these abilities or these come to love them as gifts now, but I didn't know what to do with them. I hated it. I hated knowing things. I didn't want to have this. And the pressure of knowing things and the outcomes of knowing things was like, it's hard to explain, but that put me in such a depressive order where I didn't want to be here anymore. So I went to my priest. I sat down with him and I was in the parking lot and I was like, gonna like ditch him and I was gonna be like, oh, sorry, I can't make it. Like I was, it was tough for me. So I finally went in, I sat down with him. He listened to me for about 45 minutes. Well, a lot of my premonitions and stuff that had happened. And he just sat back in his chair and he looked at me and he's like, have you ever thanked God for these gifts? And I was like, what? That was my first I said, what? Because to me, they weren't a gift. This isn't a gift. This has been a burden. This has been hard on me. I've been depressed. I've wanted to hurt myself. Like, I didn't want to be here anymore. People don't know this about me. I've hid it my entire life up until that. Like, So, like, and he's like, "Have you thanked God for these gifts?" And I was like, "No, it can't be that easy." Like, so then I started like, "Oh, is it that easy?" So then I started being thankful for the person he created. I became thankful for the things I know, even though it's a lot of things that I don't want to know. I became thankful and grateful to be alive and to have those because we don't know when our time is up. Everything is temporary. So after that, I was like, okay, let me start accepting and trusting and being okay with who I am. And I've always trusted. There was
That was
times
about
where
10 years ago? Yeah, that
yeah,
was
about
about 10 years ago, right?
yeah.
When
And
you started to
I
to
trusted
more
them.
accept.
Yeah, I've always trusted my intuition. I've always trusted it because it helped me. There was a time in my life where I went for a walk and it was down 209. They had just made this nice pavement and it was a nice day. I took a walk and I'm walking along thinking of, whatever. Just it was a nice day. I was out by myself and there was people working, the county was working at the end of this path and I was going to, see who I knew because I worked for a municipality at that time and I knew a lot of the guys. So but as I'm walking, like getting into my walk, and I was probably walking about 20 minutes already, and I walk for a long time. I could walk the reservoir in 2.5 hours, both ways. I was like walking, enjoying, and then it just came over me, stop. And I was like when I get these, like, it's a command. You have to listen. And it's hard to explain because you have to listen. It's just in your entire being that you feel this. So I kept walking and it
I
said
like that
stop.
you're listening, though. You have to
Yeah.
understand, Mercy, I'm interrupting you, but most people don't listen. So
Yes.
you're willing to listen. That is pretty powerful. You're not closing the door, you opened it. So please
Yeah.
continue.
So and a third time I'm walking and it said stop. And I'm like, I'm kind of getting pissed off because I'm like, I want to enjoy my walk. As soon as I turned around, I was face to face with somebody my size, a man. He was wearing a black hood and black jeans. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know anybody was behind me." And he said, "Why didn't you go all the way to the end?" Immediately, red flags came up. So I had to walk around him to go past him, and I went as fast as I could back to my car. I sat in my car, I was shaking. I called my husband at the time, I told him what happened, and then I was like, "Oh my God." So, like, I've always trusted these things that come to me, but it was a command. Like, it wasn't saying, "You better stop," blah, blah, blah. Like, it was a command, "Stop." Like, I had to stop. I had to listen to everything in my being. I couldn't move any further. So that made me stop. Now, if I had not listened to that, I don't wanna think
Who
about what would have
knows?
happened.
Right, exactly. There was something nefarious going on for sure. Something was going to happen. Well,
Yeah.
that was a big saving of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I've ever had an experience where I guess I've had no, I did have one powerful experience in my 20s where I was told, and this is what came into my mind, which was not from me. I heard, "If you try, I'll help you." And I will tell you that it still sends shivers up my back because that is the reason I changed my whole life that day.
Mhm.
And it's basically saved me from this way of living that my childhood taught me to do. So, I get that kind of one, you had like that higher power moment
Yeah,
where
and
you
then that
really
goes
heard the voice.
yeah, and that goes back to me being a child and with all the childhood trauma and the complex PTSD that I had as a child. I won't go into it, but I had childhood trauma and I never dealt with it. And I finally when I was going through a divorce, it was me and my girls had to go to counseling with therapy. I call it counseling, whatever, it's the same. And the one time we were there a bunch of times. The one time we were in there discussing something, and she said, "Is it okay if I send the girls out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." And she looked at me, and I might get emotional because this brings up a lot of emotion for me, so I apologize. She said, "What happened to you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" Like, and I'm trying to explain the situation with the girls. And she said, "No, what happened to you?" And I'm still trying to explain
Hmm.
the situation. And she said, "No." She says, "I was trained in intensive childhood trauma." She saw that and it was all the things that I've hidden and nobody knew. I'm not gonna tell you about my childhood trauma. So from there we
No,
start
I'm never doing this.
so there we started working on my childhood trauma stuff, and then I started remembering more things that I had pushed back. More things were coming out that I'd totally forgotten but were real. So I worked on that. And the biggest part of my healing was listening to myself and being honest with myself. Now, everybody who knows me knows that and they've told me several times that I'm honest to the point that I'm hurtful to people. And I try not to be. But the only way that I haven't been honest was with myself and accepting who I am, and dealing with my trauma issues helped me get over that step that I needed. And she kept calling me a victim when I was in counseling. And I'm like, I got so angry. I'm like, I'm not a victim. Every issue that I've gone through, saw it to me as a step to be where I need to be. Like, everything happens for a reason. And I didn't say, like, poor me, I went through this, poor me, this didn't work out. Like, no, it's just a learning lesson for me. So I take every terrible, traumatic thing that happened as a step to get me to where I need to be in my life. So then she's like,
But
okay,
you're
let me think.
unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mercy, you're unique because many people take that pour me, pour me, pour me a drink. That's their solution. Let's do substances. Let's escape the feelings. Let's not look at this.
Hmm.
And that wasn't your way. So that's very different
No.
than many of us would respond to that kind of trauma.
Yeah, absolutely, and she even said to me, she said, with all my trauma and everything that I've been hiding, she said, "I'm surprised that you haven't been addicted to drugs or alcohol, or even worse, like, committed suicide, because this is what happens with." And I was like, like I told you, I never seen myself as a victim. And then she's like, "Okay, how about survivor?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like that better than victim. I still whatever. I am who I am."
Well, and that's like a therapeutic language piece, but and I think maybe from her perspective, it's because you were a child when a lot of it happened.
Oh, yeah,
So you couldn't
absolutely.
control your life or your environment. So that's where but I agree. You don't, when you grow up and you look at your history, you don't want to hold it as they did this to me. You want to look at how did I find a life in some form, choose these people, these parents, and live in this body right now in this time in history. What did I look for? What was the lesson in that? So that's where you become a very wise person. You're not just someone who, oh, they did that to me and I'm still traumatized. Yeah, I think we all still hold our trauma, but we can get to look at it and learn the lesson from it, whatever that is, and start to love that part of ourselves, which I love about you. You can say, I love that little girl. She was amazing.
Absolutely, and I wouldn't be here if she didn't go through the unfortunate, terrible things that she went through. And, I'm proud to be the person I am today because of everything that I went through. And like I said, there's people who have seen me do other things in my life, and, "Oh, I wish I was you." No, you don't wanna be me because of the terrible shit that I went through to be who I am and what I've been through. I wouldn't want anybody else to go through that. But I'm happy that I am here because of those experiences have helped me to be able to help other people.
Yes, but you know what? You transformed your life. You took the journey of growing and accepting the story behind your in your mind. That's a huge decision. Not light stuff. I meet a lot of people in my work and in my doing this platform, but mostly in my private practice. And it takes a really special kind of person to say, I want to heal that part of me and I want to love that part of me. And maybe there's a lot of information in this that I can now help other people. So that's not just you're like one in a million. You are. But you're also in every person I look at and we've met many times and I see you and when people get to meet you and work with you, I think it makes them realize how we all are so special and we just don't know it, you know?
Mhm.
I think it's so important to bring that kind of a mirror. So, yeah,
Yeah, and so
that's
I
big
wanted
stuff.
to yeah, and so realizing these gifts and abilities, finally, I was coming out to myself and, like, saying that this is who I am. I was created this way. Let's dive into who you are. And I always told myself, well, I'm not going to do anything with these abilities until I know exactly, so I can explain to people, this is how I do it, this is why, so then I started doing research, and as well as I know that it's really not there. I found Joe Dispenza, who was talking about the quantum. quantum physics and stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe but like meditation, like I didn't need to have this abilities meditating. Like I didn't need stones or like this is just how I've always been. So then I came across a woman named Sonia Choquette. I started reading and I was like, oh, she's very similar to me. A lot of things she says, like I can relate to. So I actually did a reading with her. And the first thing she said to me is, why are you in hiding? Like, I see you wearing a mask. There's like a cloak over you. Like, I don't understand. Like, why are you hiding? Then I got emotional. I was, my gosh. And I didn't want to tell her too much, but then we talked for a while and she's like, you have a special ability and you need to find a mentor. And that's when I started looking for a mentor. And that was like 6 or 8 months after my reading. I was like, oh, this lady's crazy. What does she know? I'm still skeptic, even though I can do what I do. I'm still skeptic. And then she's like, you need to, like, I see you writing a book. You need to write a book. Actually, I've written a book about my life, but I keep changing it up and stuff. So, like, even though I can do it, I'm still skeptical because when I sit down with do a reading, I surprise myself sometimes. But so then, like 8, 10 months later, I started looking for a mentor, and that's when I found you. And we had the
Yeah,
phone
so
call.
no one knows that I do that. No one knows anything about my private practice, but now you're gonna share, so go for
Sorry.
it.
Yeah, no. Then I
That's
found you.
fine.
We had the reading, and then I was like, and talking with you, and like, not that I needed validation. I just needed to know where to put this energy and what path I'm supposed to be on. I've always known that I was supposed to do something with it because why else would I have it? I've always known that, and I tell people as much as I know, there's lots of shit that I don't know. Like I know a lot, and I can and sitting with you, and I started doing readings, and like I was like, oh my gosh, like the information that comes through, and I call it energy, the energy that I get. I sit with people when I have a client, I sit with them, or I do it in Zoom. I sit with them, and whatever energy pulls, information that pulls that I can pull, I share that with the client and they can validate that. And if they don't validate it, I say, please write it down because it may not have happened yet. It'll make sense later on. And
Oh,
if it's
that's an
not for you,
interesting way to say it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a good aspect. I've never heard that. That's actually smart, very smart.
Well, thank you. Sometimes I surprise
So
myself.
no, that's very forward. I like that. So, no, you're not. You know what, Mercy, you're the real thing. And what can I tell you? In a real human body, not in some, like, out of an unreachable mountaintop. You're a human in the world that lives a regular life
Yes.
and really has brought and you've it started to validate this part of yourself, so that's really powerful. And when I met, you did a reading on me, I remember that,
Mhm.
because I was questioning where you were on your journey of exploring your skills, and you were very accurate. So your skills are so powerful and so clear, and I've, always felt that there's no doubt that you're gonna continue to grow the professional life that you want as an intuitive and have started. How is it going with your family, enjoying your intuitive skills?
Well, sometimes people say, don't do that shit around me because it freaks me out.
That's it? They say, "Chef?"
There was another family member that had gotten a car accident. I had to have a surgery in December, and that same week, he was in a car accident, and he had lost the lens out of his glasses, and he was going to pick up his car, have it dragged back, and I said, "Look under the passenger seat," and he's like, "Kids, like, I already looked under there, it wasn't there, blah, blah." I'm like, "Well," and I said to his father, "Please look under the passenger seat." That's where I see his lens underneath the passenger seat. So they leave. A couple hours later, they come back. I said, "Oh, did he find his lens?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Where was it?" "Under the passenger seat." But like, I
For
mean,
the
when I was in a car
non-believers.
accident, yeah, when I was in a car accident, my glasses, the airbag hit my face, my glasses ended up in the back seat. So, but I saw it. I see, that's how I do readings. Like I see things. And also if like I've gotten pains before, like I did a reading on a guy and I was getting a pain from my knee up to my thigh. I'm like, do you have something wrong with your leg right here? And I pointed and that I was doing an in-person reading and he's like, oh yeah, I broke that bone, a couple of years ago. Now I still get pains and stuff. Like I don't, I know things, I feel things, I see things. And I try not to be like, I don't want to like be out there, look at me, look at, I'm not that kind of person. So that's why I've always kept to myself up until this point, these last couple of years. So, but the readings that I am doing, I'm getting such positive feedback from the people that I'm sitting with, and I don't know what their expectations are. I just pull in the energy that's coming through. And every time I sit with somebody, it's never been the same. There's no like thing that I follow. I sit with them and pull in whatever energy is coming to me. And everybody's been different. And there's people too, because I say, I'm going to pull this energy in after we're done, have at least 3 questions that you want clarity on. So that I'm not just pulling stuff out of my ass. You can see that I'm actually getting this from somewhere. No, I'm not like, so by most of, yeah, most of the time, the clients already have the questions answered during the reading with the information that I'm already pulling through. So, and I've had that happen several times. I don't know what their questions are because I'm like, don't tell me any questions until the day we do the reading. I don't ask for last names. This isn't information I can find on social media, and I don't have time to look on it, look up stuff. So I'm like, just I don't want your last name. Don't tell me any information. This is the time, and then we move on. I did a reading on a woman, and her question was, she was looking for a house. She's having a hard time. She had to move at this place, and so I sat with her and I said, okay, let me see what I can pull in. And I described this house. I said, there's a little, little gray house, and I seen a fence coming from the side of the house to the back. It wasn't like directly behind the house. And I kept saying that there's a fence that comes out the side of the house. There's a big tree and like a little porch, blah, blah, blah. So I did her reading. Like a month later, she sends me an email. Oh my God, you're not going to believe this. Like, you know who you're talking to? Like, yes, I'm going to believe it. So like,
Not gonna believe
so
it.
yeah. So she found the house. It was a little house, studio apartment, had a little porch off the top of it. And she's like, there's a fence there. The fence isn't there anymore, but the fence came from the side, side of the house, like you said, all the way down to the back, but it was knocked down. It wasn't there anymore, but it was there. So
Well, your accuracy but I'm not surprised by it because my personal professional life is all about the truth of what you see.
mhm,
And I look at what you see as your view of the truth in the situation you're in. Whatever's being presented to you, you're going to tell the truth. And wonderful thing about real intuitives or psychics for this audience is they're not retelling something they see. They're telling you exactly what comes through.
mhm,
Because the human mind, the ego, is going to try to make things sound good or phrase them in a certain way. But when you are with an authentic intuitive reading or a psychic or, however they describe themselves, there is no filtration. This is just what is coming through.
mhm.
It's factual for the person reading. It's your factual basis for understanding this person in front of you. Now you do something I'm amazed by, and it's just this really broad view of the person, meaning I may see your family members, I may have information about work or your relationships, I may have information about your health, but you just open that door and you just widely open this door. And for the audience that doesn't really know that my practice is as a medical intuitive primarily and a teacher or a trainer for intuitives. I don't ever see that huge broad amount of information, and it's quite amazing. Tell me, how do you let go of it after you see it? How do you stop
Well, I do
continuing to
wanna
think
say,
about it?
like, I did have a gentleman, I did a Zoom for him, he was in California, and after the reading, he's like, "You're amazing, what do you call yourself?" And he's like, "You're a psychic, you're a medium, you're a healer, like, you're a life coach, like, what are you?" And I'm like, "I'm just an intuitive." That's I didn't know what to call myself, like, I just like, before I do a reading, I say my prayers. I especially say my Saint Michael prayer because I want to be protected. I make sure I use sage. I want to be protected because, and I tell people because people ask, just as much good information comes in, there's negative stuff that comes in as well. And I don't want to take anything that doesn't belong with me. So I will sit with somebody and do the reading, and whatever doesn't belong to me, I don't want it to stay with me. And that was hard to learn because I wanna, like, tell everybody everything that's coming through, but there's a limit to what I wanna share with people because, like, I don't wanna be like, I'm playing God or I'm doing, you know what I mean? Because
Right,
I'm
sure.
giving you the information that you need to hear. And that goes back to me saying, I don't know what anybody's expectation is. I know that when people come to me, it's for a reason and it's a healing reason. I've had people come to me because they lost a loved one. I don't know if that loved one's gonna come through to you. I don't know. I'm just pulling the information that comes through. I mean, if I focus more, I could specifically just pick up, and I don't wanna be called a medium. I like what I do. I like the vast array of everything because, like, I did a reading on my friend that I've known for 20 years. She married a high school friend of mine, and I've known her for a long time, and it was just one day, I came over to her house and she was talking about this book. It's a Nora Roberts book, and it was about a psychic, and I forgot. And she's like, "Oh, you got to read this book." So that was my door opening to let her know, "Oh, I do readings and blah." And she's like, "What?" She's like, "Give me a reading." And I was like, "No, I've known you for 20 years. I know all about you." And she's like, "No, just." So I sat down with her. And I was very nervous because it was somebody that I've known. And I know she works in the medical field. So I kept seeing the medical symbol, and I know it's paperwork wise. And then I started seeing a symbol for lawyer, the lawyer symbol. And I'm like, I don't know what this means. I'm seeing the medical and a lawyer. And I know you like your job, and I don't think you're looking for a job, but I'm seeing the two. I'm like, does that make sense to you? And she's like, oh my God. She's like, yeah, I'm looking at another job doing what she does medically, but it's coming right from lawyer's office working with workers' comp. So I don't know. And
She
then
validated.
then I never met her parents. Their parents lived out of state, but I do know that her mom passed, and I didn't wanna bring anything up about her mom because I knew her mom passed, and I didn't want it to be like, "Oh, you already knew my mom passed," or whatever, you know what I mean? She's not like that, but I just think that way. I said, "I see your dad sitting down, and I see your mom touching his shoulder." And I described her dad, I described her mom. I've never seen them before, and after the reading, she showed me pictures, and, so she could validate that. And, like, then I got a lot of stuff for her sister because I was nervous about giving her a reading because
Well, it is impressive.
healing.
That's a good way of looking at it. And what's interesting is I think in the world today, there are, a handful of people I think have clear vision. And maybe more than a handful, maybe a couple of dozen that I would say have something very specific to offer. And for us, because we live in New York upstate, lucky for us, you're here
Mhm.
because meeting someone like you, and even if it's on Zoom, I'm going to encourage anyone who wants a session with her to please book it. It's the same whether you're in person or not. But there's something about, having somebody with those skills near you that makes it easy to kind of flow into it. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you're here. There aren't too many. I'm going to say the Long Island Medium is the other very well known one
Oh, yes.
who lives on Long Island, right? And I am not I'm not a fan, but of her. Uh, yeah, she has a I'm sure she has her own.
I share my birthday with her. We have the same birthdays, actually, June 10th.
Well, there we go. All right, so the twins got separated at birth. But there's some similarity in the openness of what you share, and it's quite extraordinary. Now, I would ask you, is this something you wanna do professionally full time, or have you started that journey?
Well, I have started that journey. I do have a job that actually pays my bills, but I do see myself doing, and I own a nursery too. I do plants and growing, and I have a worm farm with worm castings, and that's a whole nother thing. People are like, "You're weird." So when I tell them, more people are finding out that I am intuitive and I do readings, like it's like, oh, it makes sense. So, but I do see myself doing this full time. And it's something that I'm slowly getting there. I don't want to overextend myself because I tend to do that. And that was something that I've learned how to do because of my childhood trauma. I make myself way busier than I should so I don't have to deal with the issues that I need to deal with. So I don't do that anymore, but I still like to stay busy. I'm a Gemini, so I like to stay busy and do lots of stuff.
Okay,
But
Gemini. And I'm a Sagittarian, and I like to create things, and I sure the heck do.
I do.
So, Mercy, how do people find you in the world if they wanna do a session?
They can either text me or they can find me on Facebook, and it's not like it's just my personal page. I don't have like a separate page because I'm not like gimmicky like that. And that's another thing. Like, I don't call myself a psychic because I passed by a psychic shop with a skull and crossbones and um, a bone, a bone hand holding a crystal ball. Like, I don't like the gimmicky of the intuitive and psychic stuff, and that's why I don't wanna be, like, a part of that, like, gimmicky stuff. So, yeah, my Merci Walsh,
That's good. Don't be gimmicky.
Mercy, yeah, is on Facebook or
So we look
Instagram.
for you, right, Merci Walsh, and then your cell phone number. This number on your card that I'm looking at, is that your number to give to anyone who wants to find you,
Yes, and that's how I
like on
find
this podcast?
people find me because I'll do a reading and I'll send them my card via text and or online email, and they'll pass it to somebody else and somebody else. So that's how I've been getting the clients that I do have, because it's just word of mouth. Like, somebody does a reading and then I'm like, just leave me a review because I want feedback. I just want feedback to make sure that I'm doing the best job I can do, giving them information that they need to be able to heal and move on. And I have repeat clients too. I have people who constantly reach out, and, and I tell people, wait a little bit, let that information sink in. And especially people who've lost someone. I mean, we all grieving, and that's the biggest thing. The loss that people, they can't get through that. The hole in their heart is there forever. And I understand that. I've had loss myself. I don't have my parents here. And I've had a friend who lost her son, right before my surgery in December, and I actually did a reading, like, I kinda did a reading to find out where he is and what he's doing, and he came through saying that he was with Danny, and she said, "Oh my god," and I said, "Whoever I'm seeing with him is somebody that is younger than they were when they had passed. So, and it could be 2 people, and she's not sure, and we haven't found a picture to verify the person that I'm seeing that is with her son." So that made her feel better and hope, knowing that somebody was there to meet him wherever he is, and,
Wow,
that could give her some
wow.
peace.
That's astonishing. So, Mercy, your number is, everyone, 845-242-8989. Text her. Don't call. She's a busy woman.
Yes, I'm very busy.
You've been training as a professional, because you call yourself professional intuitive guide and consultant. And I like the idea that we don't do this kind of work, because I think we all have some very positive intuitive skills to bring to this world, whatever form they take, without some guidance. All right. And I think I very much believe in very strong ethics and boundaries around the work, which you have beautifully incorporated into what you do. It's how I was fostered and trained to be who I am in the world. I didn't do this by myself. I had a great teacher, and you've you exemplify what's possible, and it didn't happen to you until you were a very mature woman with you
Mhm.
have adult children,
Yes.
and
Yeah, I'm a
not,
grandmother.
not in a rush. You're a grandmother. She's a grandmother, and not unlike her doppelganger twin in Long Island. So you 2 have separated. So just enjoy the I think you can enjoy what you have now, right? Is that
Yeah,
possible for you to
absolutely.
enjoy it?
Yes, I'm enjoying it very much because I know, and when I do a reading, at the end of the reading, I physically see the people having that breath of release of what they were carrying. The heaviness that they were carrying was released with that breath, and that means to me that I've done what I needed to do, and the gifts and abilities that I have, I'm doing what I need to do with them, and I finally found where I belong.
That's an amazing place to be. So before we close our podcast session, I'm going to invite you, and you don't have to agree, to give me kind of a mini reading on my current state of affairs. And we can cut this if it's terrible. Well, no, you'll be fine. I don't know if I want anyone to hear it, but that's what I mean by cut it.
Well, that's an important thing to know too, because I tell my clients, especially people who like want to do a group reading or have people in the room. I know that they have people in the room, so I tell them, "Are you sure?" Because very personal stuff comes
Yeah.
through, and I don't think that other people, like, I wouldn't people knowing certain things that come through because, so I tell people that, like, make sure that these people in this room can know deep things about you, because that's what I pull in. Like I said, it's not stuff that I get off social media. It's not stuff that I heard from a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. This is personal stuff that comes from God who created us. I have these abilities and gifts for a reason, and that information's coming through, and you can't hide. You can't hide it. Especially like I have a lie detector. I know when people are bullshitting me and lying. Lots of people are liars and are very deceitful. So, yeah. So if you want a reading, just make sure that whoever's around you can know personal things about you.
That's good. So so you and agree you wanna try this for 2 minutes? Just, I'm not gonna even ask a question, all right? You can just give
Okay.
me a piece of information that comes to you. What's coming to you for me, please?
Okay. Okay. How I always start too is take some deep breaths with. You can either do it on your own or with me. So let's start off by doing the deep breaths.
Okay.
Now, what I'm getting in for you, I know you do this for a living, but I'm seeing like, I don't know if you know something like Omega. Like, are you going to be teaching a class? Were you invited to teach a class at like that Omega Institute or something? I see you like in a classroom aspect with a bunch of people like that. Is this something that you have? Somebody has reached out to you, or something you're thinking about doing?
Do you want me to give you feedback?
Yeah, or if you can validate that, I usually just say, yeah, you can, if that makes sense.
I can tell you that I am doing an as of today, you figured out something right away. I am gonna be doing a weekend teaching on a Saturday, 1 to 4 p.m. in Woodstock, New York, and it'll be on all my social media. It's just in June, the end of June. So yes, exactly. I'm doing a
Okay, great.
teaching. I just decided today.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. And I do know this that you said you have written a book, but I see you passing that on to somebody else to actually like tidy up or clean up. I see you doing that. Have you done that? Or are you thinking about that? You're like, it's a cleanup. Like you've
Definitely.
written your book, but you're cleaning it up.
Yes, next steps. Yep,
Okay. Okay. So
absolutely.
good. I see that for you coming up. So that's good. Congratulations. I'm doing the same thing. I'm not there yet because I keep changing stuff, but I want people to
That's
know
okay.
more about me. So what
Now
else do we
let's
got? Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if this is up or coming for you, but I see you planning. You're planning. You're planning a trip. You're a getaway. You're planning it. I see you like sitting down. Is this what I want to do? Is this not what I want to do? But I see you planning a like a getaway. It may be a trip. I'm getting getaway. Maybe you need to get
Well,
away. I don't.
I think that's a good analogy. I won't say the specifics, but
Yeah, you don't have
there's a
to.
lot of no, a lot of things up in the air that are not yet finalized. So yeah, there's the thinking about planning, but not the actual event yet,
Okay,
which
perfect.
is good. So you're definitely correct about that, 100%.
Okay, good. And that's what I tell people too, because when I see things, the way I see it, it may not make sense to me. Like I say it how I see it, and like you can make sense of it because you know it's for you. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah,
because when
well,
I
you're not
yeah
well, you don't have to know the exactitude of the moment of the actual events. You see an
yes
event happening, and that's real. That's true.
yeah and like I said, none of my readings have ever been the same. It's not like I have a routine. I'm going to ask they're going to be planning on going away or they're going to have a and I just did this too and I'm so sorry for my friend Brody, but I knew that he was having a baby and they're having a gender reveal party and he wanted to know what team we were on, team girl or boy, so I actually did a remote viewing of his sister because he said his sister had the information and I seen the pink balloons, so I knew he was having a girl. So, and I don't like to do that very often, but I did I did it.
Okay, you did it. What about
And I had
I'm just
told
gonna ask
him,
one
I said, "I'm team girl," and he goes, "No," because he knows what I can do, and, he knows, so he's like, "Oh, no," he wanted a boy, so but whatever,
that's funny.
healthy and happy baby, that's all he wants.
That's it. Absolutely. So I guess I'll ask you one personal question, and I think
Okay.
it's useful for many to hear that this is possible. So I have never asked anyone to ask my mom, the woman who raised me, how am I doing? She passed
Now
away 36 years ago. I was very young then. So, I
now
mean,
now is this,
I was an adult, I was younger.
now I'm getting to is this your biological mom or the mom who raised you?
No, the mom who raised me. That's good, you
Okay,
know the difference. I
okay.
had to. Yes, everyone.
Okay. Yeah, she's always been supportive of you. I think she was the one who she's coming through like she knew this about you. This wasn't something you weren't like me. You didn't hide this. Like you had this from a long time ago. like these abilities.
We
Like
talked
she's
about
always
it.
like
We talked. Mhm.
like yeah, she's very supportive of you and happy, like very prideful, like very lots of pride for you.
Great. That's wonderful. Yeah. No, my mom and I talked about this when I was 8, which is similar to what you did when you were 8.
Well, no,
I
I
share
heard
that
about yeah, the first
you
time
saw
that I
something at
shared
8.
yeah. Well, I knew a lot of stuff, but I didn't know that nobody else could do things. So, it wasn't until I actually my sister was in the hospital where I blurted it out and was like, "Oh, my sister's in the hospital." So,
Yeah, but something got revealed at 8 to you, and at 8, something got revealed to me. So she's well, that was good to hear from her. That was wonderful.
very lots of pride, very prideful in for what you're doing.
That's wonderful. I love it. I'm gonna take that. Thanks, Mom. So we are going to say to everyone, please don't hesitate to get the support you need from Mercy Walsh as a guide and consultant for all areas of your life, all the things that come to you that are maybe worrisome or undecided and maybe concerning, and she can be a person, someone to really rely on for that open door to what the many call the Akashic record, the record where everything we know is sitting, waiting for us to find it. And I am so privileged to have you here today, and also privileged to have you as a student in my intuitive training.
Thank
And I
you.
thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. It's love. You're a very good student and a wonderful example of what happens when we trust ourselves, when we believe in ourselves.
And
So thank you again.
living authentically. That thank you for helping me live who I'm supposed to be. Without you, I wouldn't be doing what I would still be hiding. And that was huge for me. So I thank you and I appreciate you every single day for what you've done for me to be my authentic self and to live my life
Well,
happy.
you're very, very welcome. And I want to remind both of us, you found me. So you had a lot to do with this happening, a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Mercy. And I look forward to seeing you in my office occasionally and in our own conversations and emails. And thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
We want to thank the following people: Jennifer Maidman for original music. Listen to her on iTunes and Spotify. True English of Upstate Podcast Studio for sound and recording engineering. And all our executive producers. See you next time.